what evil lurks in the halls of Washington. Well, that would be me, Wild Bill Samsel, your host of the Samsel Report. Join me for Wild Bill's Headline Roundup every Saturday night right here on Revolution Radio.
Enjoy your extra big-ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another?
Extra big-ass fries.
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're having
Come
trouble.
on. My kids are starving.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, but above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener-supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning how to do everything website all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
What we do in life, it goes in eternity.
From the corrupt corridors of Wall Street to the lords of the City of London, from the gold markets of the Pacific Rim and the Far East, comes the Guerrilla Economist. He clears the fog of economic and geopolitical disinfo. Know the truth, see the trends, understand the players. Protect your future and family. The financial freedom fighter, a rebel with a cause. This worldwide transmission has been brought to you by the Guerrilla Economist, helping the world understand, prepare, and make sound decisions to protect your future and your family. Visit the Guerrilla Economist at roguemoney.net, spelt ROGUEMONEY.net, for additional information and services. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
All right, folks, welcome aboard. This is the Guerrilla Economist, on another exciting Sunday, September the 14th. I'm broadcasting live from freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio. We are listener-supported, so click that donate button either on the home screen or in the chat room screen that you have pulled up in your computer, on your computer. That being said, folks, I got a few things that I need to get through. But before I even get into that, I want to introduce a guest I'll be on later. He's going to be dialing in at approximately 6:20. He's going to be calling in about 20 minutes or so. And the guy's name is Michael Rosecliff. And Mike and I connected through a mutual friend of ours named Dale Pinkert, who is an amazing guy. And Dale's like, hey, you know what? You need to reach out and you need to talk to this guy, Mike. He's he's been following some of your work. He's a former Wall Street insider. I mean, the guy worked in algo trading, so he's from the technology end of it. He was a trader, then he moved into the IT department, got involved in computer trading networks, got involved with the algorithmic trading aspect of it. And Mike is somebody who, when I spoke to him, is so incredibly talented. I mean, the guy is not only are like me and him like there, right? Like right there when it comes to the way we see the corruption in Wall Street through the entire debacle that's been going on globally. The fact is, the guy is so smart and so good at what he does. He's developed a program called Looking Glass. And the most amazing thing Looking Glass is that he's able to predict what the algorithmic computer is doing in Wall Street, number one, and he's proven it by telling you exactly when these quote-unquote flash crashes are occurring, where certain stocks are going to be going. Nailed it to the exact T. I mean, literally, like, hey, you say Apple's going to drop $44, and boom, the next day Apple drops $44. That's the kind of track record this guy has. And he's taken Looking Glass from just monitoring stuff that's going on in the market, but also monitoring things geopolitically. He's given me the heads up on the entire Scotland situation weeks before it even happened. He's given me the heads up on a few other things as well. I mean, it's just incredible bits of information. Looking Glass, from what Mike tells me, is about 96% accurate. Okay, that's fantastic. So in other words, this is something that's far more advanced than web bots, far more advanced than a lot of things that people are involved in. And there are a lot of characters out there that are taking notice. They're starting to realize and take notice on what this gentleman has developed, because information is power. So Michael Rosecliff will be joining us on 20 minutes after the hour. That being said, I want to cover a few things real quick. I want to thank everybody for supporting this radio program on freedomslips.com, but also supporting the website, roguemoney.net. Last week we had Ken Shorjan on. He and I spoke. He's one of the contributors over there. I myself contribute. That is the flagship website. Now, recently I haven't gotten a chance to really put anything up there for myself except for the radio interviews, a couple of audio stuff that I have out there. But so I've been getting a lot of emails. Hey, when are you going to put out a next article? See, often, folks, I put out articles that are 3,000, 4,000 words long, a lot of technical data. I boil it down. I re-engineer a lot of things. So when you're getting an article from the Guerrilla Economist, you're getting the best possible insight that's easy to understand, and it's forecasting a lot of information. I am working on a new article. It will be out soon. What has occurred, and kind of throw a monkey wrench into this thing that people that are wondering where I'm at, it's right now I got a couple of corporate commitments that I got to finish, and probably by the end of October, October the 25th, I will be back full-time to my regularly scheduled routines, okay? So that being said, so sit tight. Join Rogue Money. It's the best website you can join for cutting-edge information. In fact, the way Michael Rosecliff got a hold of me was he was actually tracking my stuff. And so far from what we put out and what I put out as well, we have a very high percentile of accuracy here. So that's pretty informative. So if you're a person who's an investor, you're a person who's interested in finance and economics, you're a person that really wants to know how money and power ties into every single geopolitical event that you could think of, you need to sign up to roguemoney.net. It's only $2.99 a month. I mean, folks, you got people out there spending, I don't even know what, $15 every 3 weeks or 2 weeks on Wall Street Journal, $50 a month on Financial Times, and they're giving you nonsense. They're giving you watered down, shill covered nonsense, and that's something that we're not doing over there. Please join us, support us. You're supporting the fight. What else? Covering all that, there's a lot of things that have come up. And one of the things, folks, that I always like to talk about as we march on towards this entire scenario of collapse, watching the entire Western banking system fall to pieces here, is this, okay? We are watching the truth. And as time goes on, truth is starting to come up more and more into the forefront, okay? Because it always happens. When systems unravel, truth comes out. And you know what happened about a week ago? Well, what also happened is you have the SPIC, the SIPC insurance protection. And people found out that SIPC is just a fraud. That's not covering you against future contracts. Now, folks, if you're a person, okay, I always get these emails. What's a sign? What's a sign? When do I get out? When do I leave the market? I've taken a hit on precious metals. I've taken here. I've taken a hit there. What do? Folks, here's the deal. Touches on. As we are involved in this fraudulent market, right? That market that has no sense, has no bearing on reality whatsoever. Okay? Every other week, fraud, the lies, the cover-ups are being risen to the surface. Okay? And you know, the truth of the matter is, these guys, with every turn of the leaf, these gangsters are letting it be known to you that they're going to rob you. They're letting it be known to you that your money and your wealth is in great danger. Folks, I've detailed for you, and I'm going to have a good friend of mine, Greg Morris, who's going to be coming on probably next 2 weeks or so. Okay, I'm going to have Greg on. We're going to explain to you. Greg's popular for cracking open the whole entire mortgage fraud back in 2008, and he has, in my personal opinion, the most airtight description and definition of how equities securities work in the entire world. What Greg's put out, that he's fact-checked and corroborated with me, it's information that I'd say less than 129 guys in the entire world know. And that fact is this, folks. You don't own any stock. You don't. When you buy a stock, when a company goes IPO, contractual obligation on the exchange and the brokers that sell it, that entire stock is owned by the DTCC. The Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation owns the stock. The DTCC owns the bonds. The DTCC owns every single MERS mortgage in the nation. They own it. It's theirs. There's a nominee, there's a trust in there, and the nominee of the trust that the seed and company. Now the DTCC owns it. So, and then on top of that, the verbiage, the vernacular, the phrasing behind this whole entire definition of who you are as a quote-unquote investor is that you are what's called a beneficiary owner. In other words, if anything were to happen, they can revoke your ownership, they can cancel your ownership, they can do whatever the heck they want without informing you of anything, and you have no recourse to do anything about it. That is law. And they've written those laws. So you are playing in a casino with a stacked house that's completely and diametrically opposed to anything that resembles a benefit to you. Anything. Why would you do that? Would you willingly walk into a casino knowing that, hey, you know what? I've heard rumors that the dice are weighted. Would you walk into a casino? Even the card counters don't even go because they know it's totally rigged. So the criminals don't even venture into it. Well, that's exactly what's going on in our stock markets today. The stock markets today, the very criminals don't play in it. Think about that for a second. The big criminals, the big money that's in the stock market, what have they done? Well, they've divested themselves out. They're out. They're out. And they're putting put options guaranteeing that the market will come down. And yet, you have people that are in it. Well, V, I'm going to stay in there, and I'm going to pull out right before the whole thing comes down. What you fail to realize, folks, and every single time in history, the average Joe doesn't pull out in time. And he winds up losing his entire financial future, his things, his entire posterity is gone. Financial posterity, gone, evaporated. And I've encountered some of these people. I remember back in the early, right before the dot-coms, became the dot bombs, and the dot bombs became the dot gons, where you had every so often a high school millionaire, because they were cracking high school millionaires and college millionaires every week. I remember people coming up to me, well, V, you don't understand MotherNature.com. I'm like, what do you mean I don't understand it? Explain to me why MotherNature.com was valued at $75 million. Explain to me. What does it make? What does it produce? Nothing. Well, if you just don't understand. Okay, and then we saw the entire stock go from, an IPO to an actual trade, and then it's gone. People who were putting their deeds of their homes, and this was before MERS or any of that nonsense. So this were actual deeds of their houses, paid off homes, get on tech stocks because some broker joker told them, hey, the market's hot, and watching their entire future gone and destroyed. I run into these guys, and nothing's changed, except this time the broker jokers who are more drunk. These guys are drug addicts, literally and figuratively. Literally, they're all on coke, speed, heroin, whatever. Figuratively, they live off the drugs, the speed, the stimulus that is fed to them by the central bank. Wall Street thrives because of the Federal Reserve. If the Federal Reserve were to cut off its siphon, if it were to just cut it off, Wall Street will crumble tomorrow. So you have a junkie market, and you got junkie brokers offering you junkie stocks, made worse by algorithmic computer trading that pumps up volume. You see, folks, when you're no longer focused on performance of a particular stock, you're not focused on performance. You're focused on volume. Well, you got a problem, number one. Number one, you're only limited to X amount of volume because there's X amount of investors with X amount of stocks with X amount of volume that is occurring in a market on a day-to-day basis. So how do you increase volume exponentially in an environment of low interest rates? In an environment where there's contracting credit? How do you do that? In 2006, they rolled out the answer, and today, that answer is high-frequency trading. HFTs provide the necessary volume in order for these joker brokers to facilitate the insane amount of numbers that we've seen on the exchanges. Allows total and complete manipulation that benefits the broker and the exchange at the detriment to the investor. That's what it does. Explain to me why on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the CME group, okay, and most prominently the COMEX, where all the metals are traded. This is a commodities exchange. This is a commodities exchange where you have producers of a particular commodity like silver, because the CME is controlling the silver price fix. And on the CME exchange, which the price discovery of a commodity is supposed to be something that is done between two producers and a consumer. Between producers and consumers. They're supposed to enter into agreement and decide upon that. But then you have the exchange, which is the CME. They figured out if they can introduce fraud, if they can introduce contracts on X amount of silver and exponentially put out more contracts than the actual physical supply, they can begin to manipulate the price of silver irrespective of supply and demand. And folks, I'm going to tell this to you today. Less than 2% of all the stocks that are traded on the CME, all the contracts that are traded on the CME when it comes to silver is actually done by producers and consumers. It is not done, the majority of it 98% of it is done right now by HFTs. There's no benefit for high-frequency trading computers to be in a commodities exchange. There's no benefits to it. There's no benefits for high-frequency trading to be a part of a stock exchange. No benefits whatsoever. So for the first time in history, this coming crash that we're about to experience, and 2008 wasn't hard enough in 2008. You see, they needed to bring it higher. 2008 allowed the necessary laws to be introduced. Dodd-Frank. Excuse me. The necessary regulations. What do I mean by necessary regulations? Well, since 2008 until today, over 400,000 pages of regulations have been written into law. 400,000 pages of regulations have been written that guarantees the destruction of competition, guarantees the robbing of your finances and your bank accounts, the robbing and the rehypothecating, and they call robbing a fancy word. They call it rehypothecation. Okay, let's just call for it as robbing of your accounts and raiding it and using it as collateral for their bets. Regulations that profiteer the big multinational banks at your detriment. 400,000 pages. They've written that into law. But all is well. All is good. Because I'm going to get out of the market before it crashes. And I hear that from so many people. Folks, if you're not having an action plan today, you're lost. If you don't have an action plan in place by now, you're a little late in the game. My next guest that's coming up right now, Michael Rosecliff, he's going to lay it out for you. He's going to blow your mind away. So, this broadcast, all I'm going to do, see, not only is Rosecliff a good buddy of mine, I liken him to a pit bull. A pit bull that is absolutely just juiced up on caffeine. And I'm going to do is just walk behind the tool shed, and I'm going to just unleash him. Mike, are you there?
I'm here, V.
Hey, brother. Welcome aboard. In the beginning of the broadcast, as soon as the broadcast begun, I explained to the audience what they're in for. So I did your introduction, so there's no time to be wasting on introducing who you are. The audience already knows. Brother, the floor is yours.
All righty, V. I mean, it's a matter of where to start, and I kind of figure might as well start at the beginning. And obviously, I listened to the intro. I'm flattered, but I'm going to start with a little bit of background on Looking Glass and what it is and what it does, because I do know that there are other programs out there that have attempted, but once again, as far as I know, have not achieved the kind of results, the broad-based results, especially that Looking Glass has, such to the point that one of the biggest dilemmas that I had is to whether or not I even wanted to let anybody know that I developed that program. It was that accurate. I mean, you and I have spoken, a few times, and I've given you, specific numbers and specific dates, and in fear of sounding like, here comes a guy that's going to blow V8, right off the bat. I've been spot on, to the penny on a lot of the equities, and the idea started about 10 years ago, give or take, and I had this idea, and it was spawned from Stephen Hawking's quote that I heard, and that is, at some point in time, all of the machines, and his reference to the machines at that point were all the processing power connected to the internet, networked together, from smartphones to quantum computers, which at that time didn't exist, but at that time from smartphones to Cray computers. Everything connected to the internet would actually have the processing power of a human brain. And that may not seem very impressive, but it inspired a curiosity. I mean, the kind of curiosity that makes you want to stand in the kitchen and eat a box of Oreo cookies, looking at the microwave clock and just, letting your mind wander. And I've always had a passion for technology. It started at a very early age. And, I said, wow, a human brain. I wonder if it's possible that there's enough information out there that at some level, be it through words or be it through the frequency of words or the appearance of words and the appearance of contextual phrases, not just words, can you get a glimpse into the human intention, and maybe at that, to that extent, maybe a glimpse into future events, future actions, obviously thought spawning actions. Maybe if you can grab that thought, you can kind of get an idea of what the action might be. And it started off as a pet project. I, at the time, was working in big ticket luxury sales. I did get a nice close-up look at 2008. That so-called implosion. I call that the warning shot. That was no implosion. And it started 10 years when I worked on it as a hobby. It was kind of the thing, that I did when I got bored a little bit, and it was like, let me write some code. Let me try this thing out. And, and it was accurate, but it wasn't really doing anything. But, and then about a year ago, I'm going to fast forward, leave a lot of it out. It was just kind of like I said, it was a pet project. About a year ago, I made a couple of modifications to the program, changed up some of the code, and it was like jackpot, and I started to see results out of it that were just, for lack of a more polite way of putting it, just not normal. And, to the point where I was, on a smaller scale, I'll give you an example, single options chain, single equity. I was able to pattern, for days, the broker speak and say, you're locked on a stock. When you're locked on it, that's Wall Street speak for, you say you're in tune with that stock, what it's going to do, you watch it, you know a lot about the company. The program, you can lock on a stock and just go. And that comes from my background in algo trading and designing algorithms. And I'm not going to bore people. I'm not going to bore your listening audience with exactly how, the algorithms are programmed. But I will say that, and I know you alluded to this during the intro, and that is algorithmic trading, high frequency trading, is a nuclear time bomb in the market. It's just that simple. It is a nuclear time bomb. And when it goes off, it's going to take any potentially bad or negative events in the market, and it is going to multiply those events, and it's going to multiply the severity of any anomaly in trading to a point that even the guys that design the algorithms are not ready. They cannot imagine the dimension of absolutely foobar that these HFTs and these, the electronic trading networks, especially, there's different terms for scalping, or for flash trading, whatever the case may be. There is the speed that those systems operate at are many, many, many times faster than I think people realize, or even a lot of Wall Street folks realize, floor traders or desk traders, whatever the case may be. And you saw a little bit of that in the first flash crash. For those that follow the market or whatever the case may be, there was, I want to say about 3 years ago, you saw that 1,000-point day. Where were the circuit breakers? A 1,000-point drop in the Dow, and in a matter of minutes. Where were the circuit breakers? Where were the safety measures? Where were the countermeasures that were in place to stop that? And the fact is, as soon as those machines detected anomalies in the market, they're going to start unloading those positions. By the time people even realize how screwed they are, they're going to be beyond screwed. And the reality of the situation is, where were the circuit breakers? Where were the safety measures? I know specifically some of the algorithms that were in the high frequency trading systems that were triggered. And people have to understand, they're only programmed to operate within a certain range, a certain, it's called predictive normal. There's a certain predictive normal. Many of them are programmed for so-called outlier events. Once you get past that, they're going to begin unloading. There's only one option that they have. They're going to start to sell. They're going to unload. And when you see, even if it's for a geopolitical reason and people start to unload their positions, those machines are going to see, the market start to drop, and they're going to jump in and start unloading, which is going to cause more machines to jump in.
We just seem to have Michael drop off. He's coming back in.
Please state your name after the tone.
Okay. Don't know what's happening there. I think we're having a little bit of technical issue on Mike's end, trying to dial in. But folks, what Mike was saying is this. This is important. Okay, just to reiterate this. When you have one machine that says sell, and it starts dumping its position, every single machine, every single computer is going to do the same thing. So you have a mass dumping. Okay. Now, the first flash crash, when that 1,000-point drop hit the Dow, you guys remember that it's this. The news reported it as if, oh, some trader accidentally hit the sell button on one stock and the whole market went boom. Folks, it's beyond that. This is a monster that, for all intents and purposes, is kind of out of control. It's kind of, it's the Frankenstein that's gotten loose, so to speak. Okay, so what Mike's talking about, when you have all these cell computers, and notice when that 1,000-point drop happened, there's supposed to be circuit breakers. There's supposed to be safety measures in place that will prevent a dramatic drop that occurred like that within seconds. But none of those things kicked in because the flash crash was faster. The dumping, the sell orders were faster than what the circuit breakers were used to. So in other words, imagine building yourself, let's say, look, I'm a car nut, so I'm going to use an example. Imagine a 1,500 horsepower Bugatti Veyron. Okay, it's a $1.7 million car, on record, world's fastest car in the world, hits about 267 miles an hour. Imagine with all that 1,500 horsepower, with 1,200 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, and the car has no brakes, or they're giving it some very tiny brakes. It's the same thing. So you have these safety measures that Wall Street had from decades ago, from the 80s and the 90s, that are not set up to stop a HFT flash crash of 2012, 2013, or even into 2014. Mike, are you back?
Yep, I'm back.
All right, buddy. I was just telling the audience about what the ramifications are when I was explaining to the audience what you said. When you have one computer selling, they all sell, and it's a massive crash that the old ancient technology of countermeasures and safety switches are not set up to stop. Go ahead, buddy.
That's exactly it. And like I said, you have largely to halt trading on an exchange floor, and I love the alleged, there's automated systems in place that'll stop that. Yeah, it worked out real well about 2-3 years ago, and you were talking about less volume. It worked out really great when Apple, people were getting printed at 1989 prices on Apple stock. It was hilarious, and that was it. You saw it. Where were the circuit breakers? They weren't there. Where were the halt trading automatically? It wasn't there. But people, like I said, people have to realize that the algorithms are programmed to operate in a certain what's called phase of normal, and that's to understand how they work. I mean, these algorithms are taking advantage of fractions of a penny in some case. It's called scalping. They're taking advantage of it could be a small difference on the order book, a tiny to half a penny, a fraction of a penny. And when you trade large volume, and that machine can trade 1,000 times than a human, you have to understand the machines are programmed to react at that speed, and they're also programmed to that if there is a position that's held, even for a very, very short period of time, that if there's anomalous or outlier black swan events that take place, sell. At this point, I want to say 60 to 65% of the trades that are made do not involve a human being. It is complete machine driven at this point.
You're cutting it.
And you're talking about an HFT machine that's going to, yes, sir. Go ahead, B. I can barely hear you.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a delay there. I think something's going on with your line, brother. I mean, we got cut out. You're saying the percentage of computers that actually do the trading and those actual trades that are going on. I think you left it off at 86% of all stocks are computer to computer or something like that. And I think you got cut off in between there.
Okay, 60% of the trades that are going on an institutional level at least, and there are, believe it or not, now trading programs, that you can buy even as a retail investor that so-called simulate what the black boxes that the big wirehouses have that they can do. I'll give everybody a hint: save your money. They don't. Trust me. Though a lot of the algorithms that these machines are using, they're damn near national secret level. save your money. That's all I'm going to say. But 60 to 65% of the trades on any given day, there's no human being involved in that trade. It's an electronic trading machine that's going to make the trade and clear the trade and do what it has to do. And it's going to be a machine literally talking to a machine. And you have to understand, like I said, that yet the technology is, and by the way, many of them have not been updated for the new normal. That's the market. Speaking of, and I hope we get into this a little bit later. Maybe somebody out there can tell me what the Dow is doing at 17,000. Where the S&P is, where Nasdaq's at. Maybe somebody can make an intelligent argument as to what we're doing up at this altitude, and I'd love to hear it. I really would, because I haven't been able to find anybody yet that can make even a halfway intelligent argument as to what we're doing at 17,000. It's just, I mean, the absurdity now is just it's off the chart. But in any case, the point of the story is that you got to realize, I mean, you want to compare a crash 29. I don't recall any, the crash 29. I don't recall any high frequency trading network there. 87. I don't recall any there. The magnitude, the amount of chaos that the machines are going to add to any sort of anomalous event is absolutely outrageous. Algorithmic trading and high frequency trading used to be an exception to a rule. Now it is the rule. And like I said, in an anomalous event, 1,000 points in 15 minutes. I was working on the street when that happened. I said, 1,000 points in 15? How? Where were the circuit breakers? Where were the safety measures that were supposed to be in place? And I had a very good friend of mine ask me a question. I go, could theoretically the Dow ever run to zero? My answer to that question initially was no. I wonder now. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's a likely event, but could it happen? By my estimation, yes, it could, theoretically. And that is go ahead.
It's amazing. Like what you said about the theoretical possibility of Dow going to zero. It's theoretically possible. I mean, when you look at all the over leveraged stocks that are out there, over leveraged 100%, 200, 300%. I mean, the ramification. You hit the nail on the head, man. It is a financial nuke bomb.
It is a financial time bomb waiting to go off. And here's basically the way I compare it is, I looked at a lot of the modeling that I used for Looking Glass was based on 29, was based on 87, and I also went looking for specific instances of high market volatility, and it was kind of a test, of the program, and some of the numerical modeling that I used was from the 29 crash. There's a difference right now, and the big difference is it's very simple. The ultimate variable is speed of information, and the way I present it to people, I go, in comparatively speaking, the chaos that is going to happen in the markets now, the chaos that's coming is going to be moving at the speed of friggin' light compared to 1929. People that work on the streets remember T+3. It's on your Series 7 exam, T+3. That used to mean in order to make a trade, it took 3 days. And that's if you can get your broker on the phone, assuming the guy wasn't hiding under his desk. T+3, information, news, trading, everything moved, comparatively speaking, in 29, even in 87. Speed of information. There was no online trading in 87. There was no online trading in 29. Now, I mean, with the availability of information, the speed in which information moves, we very well may have, for all intents and purposes, from a perception perspective, time sped up. So there's no more T+3. You smash the button on SkyTrade, and your order is processed, your order is filled. Your shares that you're trying to sell are on the sell side of the book on some ECN somewhere, or ETN rather, that fast. So imagine waking up. Let's look at possible scenarios that would spark a panic. I don't know. There's about 1 billion of them. I'm going to pick one at random. Let's say the world pushes Vlad too far. Vladimir Putin. Let's say the world pushes that man too far. I'll give you a hint. Don't. He's the most dangerous man in the world right now. Do not make Vlad angry. But let's say hypothetically, sanctions push that man too far, right? And he decides to mash the F the petrodollar button. Okay? He has that ability right now. That's why he's sitting back looking cool as a cucumber. Let's say he decides to unhinge, or introduce a petro ruble, a petro yuan, a petro mark, let's say, and you wake up and the dollar's been devalued 80% overnight. The sell-off or anything, war. I mean, there's so many opportunities now for chaos to start that, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, something happens. Okay? And all of a sudden the news is out there. Think the speed that information can move at now compared to 87, compared to 29. Now, compound that with the fact that you'd basically be almost burning the same generation for a third time. And I say third generation, I mean baby boomers. You're going to take people whose 401ks, whose IRAs, whose ostensibly worthless paper at this point, you're going to take them from their 401k being, I'm just going to make these numbers up, 250. And then you're going to juice it all the way up, through absolute absurd fiscal practice up to 08, up to late 07, 08. And you're going to tell these people that their 401k is worth, at that point, 750. So 250 to 750. Woo, great. And now it's worth, 100. And then they take them through that cycle again. Holy crap, it's down 17,000. Isn't that wonderful? Happy times are here again. People are not, I have a saying that's never underestimate the power of stupid people in large numbers. Okay? But people are not stupid, and they've gotten hip at this point that the first sign of any real chaos, they're going to be on their Scottrade, they're going to be on their E-Trade, and they're going to start flooding the sell side of the market because they're going to go, it ain't going to happen to me again. So there's that panic factor that's there. And that's why I bring up the high-frequency trading networks, is because, you're going to get a retail side, sell side flood. Okay, which a lot of, and maybe there's not enough analysts and there's not enough guys out there that realize just how much volume that is. And then you're going to get the institutional guys who, don't forget, they're still human beings. They're so susceptible to panic, and they all have a friend, and they all know somebody that got canned or that got laid off or that took the ultimate hit, whatever. And so they're going to start loading the sell side, and then the machines are not going to know what to do, and they're going to start loading. They're going to do it in blocks. They're going to be huge. It's going to be fast, and it's going to be, there's going to be, you're going to have an illiquid market. You're going to have a sell-side flood, the likes of which I don't believe has ever been seen, and it's going to happen fast, and that's what makes it dangerous, V. It's going to happen fast, okay? And by the time anybody even figures out what happened, it's already going to have happened, okay? And you cannot repair the confidence in the market. You cannot repair the confidence in an electronic stock trading system overnight, because even if somebody comes out, and by the way, my favorite was blaming the first so-called flash crash on fat fingering a trade. Some poor schlep over at Citibank, all right, must have peed in somebody's cornflakes hardcore that morning because he got tossed right under the bus. They're saying some Citi trader fat-fingered a trade. He added 3 extra zeros to Pfizer stock, and that triggered the flash crash. I will tell you, from designing out algorithms and knowing floor traders and being in that environment, there is no button that makes the market do that, because if there was, we'd all lean on it every morning. All right, we'd sell naked calls and we'd headbutt that button as hard as we could. All right. It doesn't exist, folks. That was the lamest excuse I have ever seen for it. I just sat back and laughed like a hyena because I went, and boom goes the dynamite. There it is. There was your preview of just how fast that can happen. And that was a warning shot. That was a warning shot. All right, compared to what could happen. And I was just, they fat fingered. What are they going to do? If the Dow drops 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 points in a day, it can happen. And right about now, I can hear the people on the message boards going, he's fear-mongering. No, folks, he isn't. It's real. It could happen. And, until you realize the size of this, the block, these are not retail shares, folks. These are not like, odd lot 153 shares of AT&T that you gave your kid as an investment. These are million-plus shares in a lot of cases. These are massive floats. Those start hitting the sell side of the books, there will be chaos. And that's just all there is to it, V.
Absolutely, man. Most people don't realize this. They see the movie like Wall Street and the remake of Wall Street with Shia LaBeouf, and then they see some guys trading on the trading floor. And Drew, could you turn off your audio? Or hit mute? Oh, sorry. Mike.
Yes, sir.
Could you hit mute on your PC? Bringing some feedback.
Oh, hang on 1 second.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
Okay, just hit that mute button. Okay, so the thing is, most people don't realize is that, when you watch a movie like Wall Street, with the original one with Michael Douglas, and you watch the remake of Wall Street with Michael Douglas and Shia LaBeouf, Hollywood gives you an image about a bunch of guys in jackets on a trading floor, betting on stock. That is not the case. In fact, folks, the majority of Wall Street is not even on Wall Street anymore. It's across the river. It's in Jersey. It's in Weehawken, New Jersey. That's where the real stock exchanges are, because those HFT network wires, those fiber optic wires, are coming in right in through there. And these firms are paying millions of dollars to these computer firms just to have their specific black box and their servers moved closer to the wire on where these fiber optic wires are coming from, to move closer to that. I mean, there's a premium on space. They're making money hand over foot in this incredibly fraudulent market that's occurring, and it's unbelievable. And people don't realize this is the most dangerous point in economic history, because we've never had HFTs before. We've never had stocks that were taken and overvalued and leveraged and pumped up. And Mike's right. Show us somebody out there who could explain to us why the heck is the Dow over 17,000 points? Why the heck is the S&P over 2,000? And don't tell me we're in economic recovery. Mike, going to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's I call it the CNBC recovery at this point, because the only people telling anybody that anything is all right, they all seem to be the talking heads on CNBC, and on Bloomberg. I keep hearing about this, this recovery that's taking place, and I call it. I've coined this phrase a while ago. I call it the Wile E. Coyote theory of economics. All right, and for those of you familiar with the original Warner Brothers Wile E. Coyote cartoons, I say, the coyote ran off the cliff about 13,000 points ago. Okay, he just hadn't fallen yet because he doesn't realize there's no ground under him. All right, right about now, economically speaking, the coyote is starting to look down, and he's holding up the sign that says "Yikes." All right, that's where economically, this country's at, and the system is at, and it's not just the United States. Okay, it's the entire system. And I mean, the only thing that's more fubicore than the equities market and the options market, I mean, is debt securities. And the only thing that's more fubicore than that, all right, is, you look at the Forex market. Now, I've been, by the request, I think you mentioned earlier during the introduction, you and I were introduced through Dale Pinkert, who's a Forex trader and also a phenomenal guy. I've only known him for a short period of time, but I will tell you, he's a phenomenal human being. And I'm very thankful that he introduced the two of us. But I've kind of unleashed Looking Glass on the Forex market a little bit, and the results that have come back. And I know you like to talk about the dollar and fiat currencies that are worth zero. All right, it's one thing to say it; it's another thing to see the hard data that Looking Glass returns. And it's just, there are times I want it to be wrong. Okay, well, let me put it that way. There's times I want it to be wrong, and it isn't. But the point of the story is, you look at the Forex market, you talk about, I mean, a complete system, economic system that is broken beyond any chance of repair at this point. And I will tell you this, and this is once again from unleashing Looking Glass on a lot of the markets and with keywords, and some of it's done numerically and some of it's done alphanumerically, where I'll look for actual long key phrases. It's by design. It's not an accident, folks. And for those of you that follow the Forex market, okay, there's a couple of places that I would like people to look, lest there be any doubters. Okay, notice, if you will, as currencies now in the Forex market. And once again, by the way, there's just as many algo trading boxes hooked up to the Forex market as there are in the equities market and as there are in the debt securities market. And by the way, V, you brought up a really funny point. Yes, there's literally, I'll take it one step further. There is a premium paid. And guys that work on the street will tell you this. There are premiums paid even within a data center to be one rack ahead of your competition in a rack of servers, okay? It's that competitive. I mean, you're talking about splitting a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a second. That is the level that these machines have gotten to. All right. I mean, if you're one step closer, I'll give you an example. And this is, again, guys that work in this will know it's legit, cogent lines or T5 lines, dedicated lines like that. If you're 2 racks closer, there's, you have a ping time of, 1 or 2 milliseconds higher than the next rack downstream. Well, guess what? You have an advantage. There is an absolutely friggin' outrageous premium paid just to be closer to, or what they call upstream. All right. So that being said, back to the Forex debate, notice, if you will, everybody, the fact that all those currencies that are out there, fiat currencies that are being printed into oblivion, and I remember a commercial of, and I forget, maybe it was Vector Vest or something like that, and it's just, they have these kind of cartoon banks burping money out all over the place. It's exactly what's going on. All right. You look at that market, notice, if you will, that all those currencies are slowly but surely meandering about and starting to trade closer to par value with each other. It's not an accident. I know there's much spoken about the whole idea of a one world currency, whatever the case may be. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Wouldn't it be a lot easier in terms of accounting, and wouldn't it be a lot easier in terms of getting everybody to agree on a single world currency if all the fiat currencies, and notice I say fiat, all those fiat currencies were trading closer to value? Wouldn't that be a lot easier to get everybody to agree on a one world currency? If, it'd be a lot harder if my, Mike dollar was worth, 5 and the V dollar was worth 1. Well, I'd say, it would be harder for us to agree on a single world currency. But if everything was trading close, okay, in terms of value, in terms of exchange rate, well, number one, it would certainly make the accounting easier when the big remark to market happens, and I'll discuss that later a little bit. But wouldn't it make it easier, for everybody to agree on a single world currency? And watch it, folks. Just watch. I don't know if anybody that listens to this, trades Forex. I'm sure they do. Just keep an eye. And there's a story also, and I bring this up just to give you, I want people to see the accuracy of this program. Keep an eye on the Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar. I bring those up specifically because they're going to tell a story, and it's a story that you've alluded to on, and I've listened to a lot of your shows when you're on Hagman and stuff. The New Zealand dollar and the Aussie dollar are going to tell a story. And the story is going to be the struggle between, or really not a struggle at this point, it's kind of a one-sided posterior kicking going on, but it's going to be a story between the BRICS nations and the Anglo-English banking system. And because of the fact that the Aussie dollar, they do quite a bit of balanced trade between the eastern markets and the western markets, that Aussie dollar, and you've seen it already. And I think you and I spoke at the beginning of last week, and I called it. And you're looking at the chart now, and the Aussie dollar got splattered for the most part. Keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on the Forex market, okay? Because that's kind of the bellwether at this point. And keep an eye on, especially the Aussie dollar and the New Zealand dollar. They're going to tell that story. And I know your previous shows, you've talked a lot about the BRICS nations and how they're getting away from the dollar. And as you so eloquently put it, I actually stood up and cheered when I heard you say this. It's not just the 5 countries that are in the BRICS acronym. There's over 100 of them. Okay. And it's really not hard to sell a membership to that club. It really isn't at this point, which should tell you something about the U.S. dollar. So Forex traders that are out there, keep an eye on the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar. It's going to tell one hell of a story, what's going on, and it should be very evident at this point, what's going on, and it's by design, folks. It's not an accident. Okay, and like I said, in designing algo trading programs, I will tell you that there is you run into people every once in a while that you're like, well, what do they know that I don't? And I will tell you, at the highest levels, it is by design and it is by plan, B.
Absolutely, man. The thing is, you got to mute Mike. Okay, the thing is this: when you have a currency war, Okay, which we've been involved with heavily back in I think really ratcheted up in 2012. It is a race to the bottom, and Mike, you hit the nail on the head, man. It is a race to parity, and on the surface, at one level, it all appears that we are, currencies are fighting for value and fighting for trade and fighting for use and fighting for utility on one level. But a level that's two steps removed from above, what's really happening is they are pushing all the currencies down into parity. So thus, when this whole thing goes belly up, it will make accounting all that much more easier. It will be so much easier to unravel this mess. And let's not forget here, Mike, that they have the straw man already built out. And the straw man is going to be blamed for all this, and that's the United States and the dollar.
Oh, there's no doubt about it, and anybody that knows any level of economics, okay, the reality of the situation should be, the reality of the situation is we should be asking a very important question at this point.
Mike, save that thought. We got a hard break coming up. We'll be back.
All right.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. See how the trouble you've started?
Join us here on Revolution Radio, Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern on Studio B, for a politician, patriot, social savant, businessman, former investment banker, and Veterans Today columnist, Mike Harris. Listen to Mike as he exposes the corruption, sedition, and terrorism within our own government. He knows our system is flawed and that obstruction of justice is all too commonplace. His show, Short End of the Stick, pokes at this corruption with eloquent style. That's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Studio B for the Short End of the Stick with the man who should have been elected governor of Arizona, Mike Harris.
That's right here on Revolution Radio.
I gotta know the truth, Charlie.
This is Stu Webb, federal whistleblower, the new host of Veterans Today Radio News Reports, Monday right here on Revolution Radio. My guests are writers and contributors to veteranstoday.com, the #1 alternative media magazine in the world and the true voice of the world's clandestine community. We will be discussing recent articles that deal with government corruption, politics, military, Illuminati, and world events that affect your lives and what you can do to change the direction of America. So tune in to the Veterans Today Radio News Reports every Monday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on Studio B here on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Thank you.
Coverage? Oh, you mean them little root weevils that crawl around popping off cameras in your face?
Those root weevils write history.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all! See how the trouble you've started?
Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, by all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right! You tell them I'm coming! And hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio!
Who are we? Where do we come from? Are there other humans in our Milky Way galaxy? What is our real history? What happens after we die? Or what created our universe? What is the purpose of our life? What evolutionary steps do human societies go through? Who built the ancient monolithic sites found all over the Earth? How did the extraterrestrials travel from star to star system with almost no time passing? Ohio Exopolitics is on at 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on Revolution Radio. Join Mark Snyder as he interviews a myriad of excellent guests each Saturday night on Revolution Radio.
At freedomslips.com.
I have worked with the CIA, NSA, Templars, and Bilderbergers. Now I work for you. My show will disclose secrets, science, and esoteric knowledge. Join me, Stephen D. Kelly, for 2 hours every Thursday night at 10 o'clock Eastern Time on freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio, Studio A. You can also listen to previous shows by going to youtube.com/Free Revolution Radio.
Enjoy your
extra big-ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another?
Extra big-ass fries.
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're having
trouble.
trouble.
Come on. My kids are starving.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, but above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener-supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning how to do everything website all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
What we do in life, it goes in eternity.
Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
All right, folks, this is V, the Guerrilla Economist, back on freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio. We are listener-supported, so click the donate button on the main screen or even in the chat room screen and support us. You know, we are on the front lines, and there's an old saying: put your money where your mouth is. You love the programs here on Freedom Slips. put your money where your mouth is and support us. All right. Thank you so much again for being out there and listening to us. Thank you for the show. Just want to, again, welcome back Michael Rosecliff, the computer genius, the algo trader from deep within the bowels of the belly of the beast. Mike, are you back?
Yes, sir.
All right, buddy. In the beginning of the you gotta hit the mute. Okay, in the beginning of the last hour, we kind of went into detail about Wall Street, the algorithm. We talked about the forex. What do you see that are the other triggers that are out there, man? And you can take this thing wherever you want to go.
I tell you right now, it's actually, and the few people at this point that know me personally, they have a game they play, and it's how many times can I say chaos in a given period of time. And those the few that know me personally are listening, and they're sitting there. I guarantee you, they're smirking right now, going like, "Oh God, here he goes." But there's just so many opportunities now globally to spark the kind of event that would lead to our Dow nightmare scenario, our S&P nightmare scenario, our NASDAQ nightmare scenario. There's just so many events out there, and right now, I'm gonna preface this by something. I woke up this morning, and while pacing around and chain smoking, as I so often do, a thought occurred to me. Every day that the Western economy is able, to wake up and go to a store and purchase a loaf of bread with paper money or with their debit card, okay? Thank Vlad Putin. Because right now, like I said it before, I'll say it again, he's the most dangerous man on the planet. He also has information about flights MH17 or 370. What are the chances those are two different airplanes? That there are certain nations in the world that'd rather he not have. So he's holding all the cards at the moment. And the reason I bring him into the equation is I don't think people understand how important the petrodollar is at this point. The status of the U.S. dollar as a world reserve currency hinges entirely right now upon the petrodollar. Vlad can wake up any morning he wants, roll out of bed if he's pissed off at the world, and smash the F the petrodollar button. If he does that, all right? And in case there's people out there going, no, that'll never happen. You think the train, the Power of Siberia pipeline, what is that, for show? No. There's he and China, Russia and China, okay? Russia and China right now, if they have a backroom meeting, they sit down and they munch on some sushi together, and they decide that, you know what, I'm sick of this whole petrodollar, and they decide at any given point in time that they're going to introduce a new world reserve petro currency. I don't know what it might be called, the petro mark, the petro ruble, the petro whatever. It doesn't matter. All right? They choose to introduce that. The U.S. dollar is about as useful as a fart in a tornado at that point. It's that simple. Okay? The United States dollar is not backed by anything. Okay? Our debt securities are. I'll get to that in a minute. But what I will go so far as to say is that every morning that the U.S. wakes up and our economy, the United States economy, functions as it's supposed to, thank Vlad. Send him a fruit basket. I don't know. But thank him for not waking up that morning and mashing the F the petrodollar button, because it's an option that he has, which is why I laugh when NATO and when Western nations they're going to issue sanctions against him. They're going to issue sanctions, and I'm just in the back of my mind. And this is not something that is something that I've come up with or I've invented. There are guys in the street and in the Comex pits that will tell you this. They're like they're waiting for it. They're just like, it's going to happen. It's not if, it's when. All right. So there's that. But in terms of where we're at economically, this is completely computer forecast modeled right now. We are past, as a nation, in terms of volatility, where we were in 29. Light years past it. We're light years past where we were in 87. And it's just a matter of, it's not an if, it's a when. It's a when is it going to happen? What's it going to be? And at this point, you look around the world, and like I said, nobody's stopping Putin. Okay? Like I said, put up all the sanctions you want in front of him. He's just going to sit back and he's going to laugh. And the man's got an axe to grind, okay? He was lambasted when he was put in power. Lambasted, and he was made fun of, and he was lampooned. And he's just the most dangerous thing in the world right now. He's a leader that's holding all the cards with something to prove and a vengeful streak. So, like I said, I said it once, I'll say it again. Every morning, Western economy wakes up and it functions, and the U.S. dollar is worth something. Send a thank you note in the fruit basket to Vlad. You know, in terms of what's next, and you said it best. It's the straw man. It really is. It's the straw man. The United States right now is dangling on the precipice of chaos. It really is, and never before has a nation been so divided. Again, and I have gone back as far as, and you have to realize the further you go back, it becomes more difficult for the program that I built to do what it does. But using the available metrics that are out there, I've even looked at periods surrounding the Civil War. We're past that in terms of sentiment, in terms of emotional, intellectual, human sentiment. We are past that. As a matter of fact, there's only one thing that's occurred throughout history that, and if I don't discuss the raw data that the program produces, I simply don't. How it's built, I do not discuss. But what I will say is the only thing in terms of computer modeling that comes close. If I had to pick an example of history to say where we're at in terms of a nation, Germany, 1936. That's where we're at. You know, is Germany 1936? And one of the things I have to laugh at often is the comparison to Hitler that you see, and you see it a lot on Twitter, okay? You know, and you see it a lot on like Facebook. They say, well, Obama is very much like Hitler. People seem to forget, all right, that in Germany in 1936, leaders like Obama were thrown out of office by guys like Hitler. That's not your demagogue right there. That guy's road pizza as far as, on the information political superhighway, that guy's road pizza. All right. I don't know if he was set up to fail or if he's making a concerted effort to do what he does. That's irrelevant. But, we are as a nation where Germany was at in 1936, and it's not alluding to something that may or may not happen. It's alluding to the fact that the opportunity is there for a dramatic, paradigmatic shift in leadership, and not the nice hanging Chad BS Democratic so-called election that we have in this country. There's a real possibility of a real nation-altering, empire-altering change. Some of it's by design. One guy wasn't part of the plan. I go back to my buddy Vlad because I admire his leadership style, if nothing else. And that'll probably get me labeled a socialist and a Marxist and whatever the case may be. It's not true. I admire his strength and I admire his determination, as a person. And I'm sure he's no more or less corrupt than any other politician that's out there. But at this point in time, statistically, this is a search that I ran, by the way. Statistically speaking, if he ran for president of the United States right now, he'd win. Wow. Seriously, wow. Not by a little either. Like he would bury anybody that ran against him. And again, like I said, they'll get, well, you're supporting a Russian politician, or you have you speak highly of a Russian politician, you must be communist. No, I'm pro-intellect. I don't even believe in a two-party system, but we'll leave that out of the equation for the moment, because one of the hardest things that I have to do running this program is to remain arbitrary. It's very difficult to do. And I've told you this on the phone, and I've told anybody to listen. I am a flag-waving patriot, red, white, and blue. I believe in this country. I just hate what it's become. And largely by design. And again, I give you an idea how arbitrary I've become. Most people say, oh, the globalists, oh, the NWO, everything they touch is evil. No, that's not, there are a few things that I happen to agree with, and oh my God, did he really just say that on this network? Yeah, he did. There's a couple of things that it's about common sense, and it's about logic and reasoning, and it's about sometimes remaining arbitrary when it becomes difficult to be arbitrary. Because like I said, I see the results of this program, and it's like, oh my God, really, am I seeing this? But what I will say though is we are dangling as a nation on the precipice of a nation-altering and ostensibly an individual citizen of this nation life-altering, daily life-altering event that is, put it this way, we're living a very interesting time in history, V. And knowing what I know about capital markets, knowing what I know about high finance and everything, like I said, every day I turn on CNBC, and I watch it now for a different reason. I don't watch it for information. I watch it for what I call infotainment. And that is, I just want to see how far they're willing to push it, to see what people are willing to believe at this point. But we're dangling on the edge of a history-making event, and that is computed purely absent human opinion and absent human emotion, and that's done entirely with computer modeling. And I mean, like I said, I had to wrestle with the thought as to whether or not the program that I did or achieved as far as the accuracy of the program. But I see the results, and I want to not believe it sometimes, but I don't have a choice. I trust the program, and it's just been right that many times, to the point where, put it this way, I believe that within, let's say 5 years, I'm going to pick a number arbitrarily, maybe 5 years, 6 years, I think we will be telling children about a very, very different country. I believe that we'll be telling people about something that may almost even seem foreign, to a degree. And 2008 was the chance that we had to make the situation and the system right. And a wise man told me that, they should do what Reagan did, just blast interest rates up to 18%, let the whole system come crashing down and rebuild it on something, slightly concrete. But no, we didn't. We had TARP and FARP and QE 1, 2, 3, and QE 197. And then, at this point in time, I'm waiting for negative interest rates. I'm sure those are coming. Maybe central banks can start to, pay banks to borrow money at this point. I don't know how you quantitatively ease beyond where we're at this point. It's stupid. It really is. And I don't understand how more people haven't woken up yet and went, wait a second. Now, one of the things I would like to talk about, I'll let you segue into it, is precious metals. And before anybody gets the bright idea out there that I'm a shill for, precious metals, and here he goes, he's going to plug gold. Guys, this entire program that I built has been out of my own pocket and without a very special individual. I would be in a dimension of screwed you cannot possibly imagine. But I've devoted the last year of my life to really perfecting this program. I have no vested interest in anything that I'm mentioning at this point, and it's me laying it out the way that that the program has come forth and displayed it, or it's done its thing. But as far as the precious metals, and I know that's a subject that's near and dear to you. And by the way, I'll get that mute button thing right now. When you talk, I'll hit the mute button. So, but I'll let you segue into the precious metals thing, man, because there's it's an exploit in the market. It's one that I want to tell everybody about. So I guess if you want to say anything about the precious metal things, go for it, man, and then I'll add what I can.
Before I get into the precious metals thing, Mike, one thing, man, I got to ask you this, and you and I discussed about it when we spoke earlier in the week, and when you told me this, I was like, wow, amazing. Just to get a little off track here, what you told me about Looking Glass and the discoveries it made about MH317 and 370 and Putin. Now, you mentioned Putin has some secrets to divulge. Could you get into that a little bit if you can?
I can. I took the liberty of running a bunch of searches on that, because when 370 disappeared, all right, I'm an aviation aficionado. You and I have had many conversations about aviation and airplanes, and it's just something I've always had a passion for, throughout my entire life, is aviation and airplanes, and just the technology associated therein. Now, I'm more of an aficionado of military aviation, something, once again, since I've been 2 feet tall, I can remember, opening up a book and seeing the SR-71 for the first time and just being captivated by military aviation. So it's been with me my entire life. But so here we have MH370. They lost the plane, V. They lost the plane. Okay? You lose car keys. You lose sunglasses. You lose a pen. You don't lose an airplane, especially one that's got enough electronic telemetry on board, up to and including, a live feed essentially from those GE engines that were on that plane. You don't lose an airplane. Okay, so all right, you know what? Hell with it. For discussion purposes, let's say they lost an airplane, right? All right, and then several months later, mysteriously, another 777 goes down. And there's that number again, by the way, 370 and 17, infer what you may. But another plane goes down. So now, of course, I'm locked on. I'm going like, all right, I'm going to cut the program loose on this. So here's my question, okay? So let's say hypothetically I'm the CEO or the CFO of Malaysia Airlines, okay? And I just got through a publicity nightmare of having to come on live national television and say, oh, by the way, guys, I lost a plane. I lost a plane. I don't know where it went. Where is it? Don't know. Lost a plane. Okay, fantastic. So now I'm feeling so good and so confident about my ability to operate an airline safely, having just lost an airplane. You know what? I'm going to fly another 777 over an active war zone where SA-11s are getting popped off like bottle rockets. I'm feeling so confident. I think I'm going to drop. I'm gonna fly well outside any known commercial airline route because I'm just feeling so damn confident about my ability to safely operate airplanes these days. I'm gonna fly right through an active war zone. I'm gonna throw a paper plane through a bottle rocket festival, and so they do. I had to, and it's almost one of those things I didn't want to know, but I ran the search. I ran Looking Glass on it. I mean, I was up. Literally, I say I'm not a 9 to 5 guy. I lied. I am a 9 to 5 guy. 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. is when I do my best work. Okay? And I ran the search, and I will tell people this, that there is an almost 0% chance that was two different airplanes. Okay? 370 and 17 were the same damn plane. All right? It also was not shot down by a missile. I love how they make it seem, and I know, V, you know defense technology very well. I do from an armchair kind of enthusiast perspective. But what I will tell you is that what allegedly, and notice I say allegedly, what allegedly shot that airplane down was not something you hand to a guy in the middle of the desert. It was not a shoulder-fired, push the button, wait for the tone, and cover your ears kind of weapon. It was allegedly a battery, an SA-11 battery that you need 2 years of solid training to even figure out how to make boom happen. All right? So that story didn't fly with me, which is why I got really curious. And I went, well, why? That was an attempt to start World War III. Okay? Missile didn't take that plane down, a bomb did. And it was put on board by some fun folks. I don't, and this is, again, I can only report what the program, returns to me, but you got to start looking around as to who might have an interest in starting World War III. And it goes back to your banking cabal. Now, that plane, black box lands, and instead of falling where it was supposed to, it falls, looks like, somebody screwed up, falls a little closer to the Ukrainian rebels and not the Ukrainian friendly forces who were supposed to come out and say, yes, Vlad's the aggressor. They attempted to frame Vlad and he screwed up. And now they got the worst nightmare scenario is not only did they not manage to get him framed to make him look like the aggressor, he's got the truth. And he's sitting on it. That was, let's just say the word Mossad came up a lot. Okay, and I don't want to infer anything, or I don't want to point any fingers, but let's just say that word came up a lot. And if you scratch your head for 2 seconds, and you think about it, economically, world wars change worlds. Okay, I know there's much to do about, it was written before, there'll be 3 world wars, whatever the case may be, and that's fine, but world wars change worlds. And where we're at right now in terms of economics, the only way you can bring forth the types of changes that are being sought by a small handful is an event such as that, and now, bad enough, he's got, the oil, and like I said, he's holding the cards, man. Now he's got the truth. And there are some folks that live in a banking state, once again, infer what you may, there are some folks that live in a banking state that went from scared of him to terrified of him, because he's got the truth, and I ran the search every 6 ways to Sunday saying, God, let this thing be wrong, let it be wrong, let it be wrong, let it be wrong. It's not. The results that came back, I mean, I know this program well enough now to say for sure, anything is possible, but let's just say that was no missile that brought that plane down, okay? It wasn't.
Mike,
it's a little... Mike, hang on, so let me mute out for a second. Let me see if I get this right. There we go.
And Mike, I actually, when you told me that, I was so blown away that I checked with my back sources, and sure enough, buddy, your program is spot on. It is an intelligence operation that brought that aircraft down, and 370 and 317 is the same damn plane. And there's a little banking state that flies the flag of Rothschild that happens to hang out in the Mediterranean that is right now scared crapless about that bit of information, especially that world opinion is starting to turn against it. So that's amazing information in terms of Looking Glass. Now, Mike, what else has Looking Glass shown you in terms of you mentioned the Forex time bomb. You've mentioned the derivatives issue. What else is really starting out there? If you were to peek out into the horizon, what else is on that radar screen of yours?
Well, one of the things that I thought was really interesting was the whole Bundy Ranch debacle. Now, that was an absolute that was a blip, comparatively speaking, on the mainstream news feeds, which is you have to understand when you run a program like this and being where I've been and working where I've worked, I am at the least a cynic. Okay. I am a cynic, and I am jaded to the point now where I look at everything and the first thought I go is, what am I seeing versus what am I being told I'm seeing? All right. So that brings us to the Bundy Ranch. The Bundy Ranch has absolutely dire economic undertones to it that I don't think anyone quite realizes yet. Okay. And I thought for a minute, wait a minute. Am I seeing another act in the grand stage show? And it turns out it was not. It was not, because there was almost no coverage of it. There was no sensationalism surrounding that event. There was actually a concerted attempt to silence any information coming out of that event. So that's how you've actually in what I call the day and age of high speed BS. You've actually stumbled upon something real. And basically, here's the deal with the Bundy Ranch, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners have followed it. And it was another one of those things where I went, wait, what am I seeing? So I took the liberty of, once again, doing one of my famous 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. shticks, and I cut this thing loose, and I burnt up the CPU cycles to search a little bit. And let me tell you something. One of the things that the program returned, it's something I should have known but didn't, and I face desked a little bit. And that's where you just bash your forehead into the desk and just go, son of a. First of all, you look at what happened there, and you have, for those that followed it, for those that did not do a brief synopsis, you got, Harry Reid, who's the senator from Nevada, who is happy to just be in office right now, being so closely associated with one of the most toxic presidents that this nation has ever seen. All right. And here comes Harry Reid, and the federales, and here comes Harry Reid with the Bureau of Land Management and MRAPs and so forth, right? And here he comes, and he's going to show up, and he's going to try to take away land from somebody that looks like they should have been in a friggin' Chevy Trucks commercial. I mean, all you were missing was the slow motion, like a rock, Bob Seger, and I mean, Wranglers, Carhartt, and Stetson. I mean, you couldn't have picked, a bigger poster child for the Tea Party, which is why I went, wait a minute, what am I seeing? Am I about to see another act in the greatest show on earth? And the answer is, no, I'm not. I'm about to see something real. And so, once again, for those that followed it, and granted, in the name of remaining arbitrary, and in the name of, it remaining fair, he did owe tax dollars on that land that he refused to pay, and that's that was his choice, and that's a debate that should have been, brought up in an entirely different way. But here comes the Bureau of Land Management, to save the desert tortoise. That was the story. They're coming in because it's federally protected land to save the desert tortoise. Are you kidding me? Okay. So here he comes. And by the way, I have no love lost for politicians whatsoever. But what I will say is that Harry Reid got thrown headfirst into a tree chipper on this one. All right. They're going to come in and they're going to take his land, and they made a stink. And of course you had, the whole story play out there, and you can Google it, of course. But my question was why? Why? Why would you do that? You should be happy to just be in office at this point, being so closely associated with such a horribly failed administration. There's no way politically that anybody would be insane enough to stir it that way, to stir the pot a little bit, right? So I went, well, let's see. So I do my search routine, and I sit down and I start, smashing away at my Linux terminal a little bit. And, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm sitting there in my underwear, chain smoking and going, I can't believe what I'm seeing. And here comes the results. So we scratch our head, and of course the backstory, and it was made public on a lot of the alternative news sites, was that, lo and behold, they made it sound like it was some smoky cigar club backroom deal between Harry and Rory Reid and some Chinese energy company, and that was what the land was for, which is exactly true. That is what the land was for. It's the why you have to ask the question. And so we asked the question, why? Some more searching, and boom goes the dynamite once again, so to speak. And what you have to realize is that the debt securities that the United States are issuing, okay, most specifically to China, are backed allegedly by the full faith and credit of the United States government. We have no gold, even though Fort Knox is one of the most heavily guarded places on the planet. There's probably, I'm going with air conditioners and surplus computer hardware in the vaults at this point. No gold, no silver. And so, of course, the Chinese now are lending money to the United States like a crackhead brother-in-law. It's like, here you go. Here's another $2 trillion. Here's another $5 trillion. Here's another $1 trillion. Here's another $500 billion, whatever the case may be, right? Fine. Fair enough. You really think they're stupid enough to fall for full faith and credit of the United States government? 0% chance. Zero. So how does this relate to the Bundy Ranch situation? Good question. What do you think is backing the debt securities that went over to China, V? You don't think after the 5th round of QE, quantitative easing, that the Chinese are going, yeah, that looks like a stable economy. Full faith and credit of the United States government. That's good as gold. No, it isn't. They went in there, dude, because they had to, because the Chinese are starting to call the debt. Federal land was used to back a lot of the debt securities in the United States, and now people are going to find out about that the hard way. All right? It's federal land. Basically the Chinese came in and put a gun to the United States' head and went, we want that land now. It's part of that. It's the collateral for that debt. You could barely make the interest payments on it. Surprise, surprise. That's the collateral for the debt. There is no way Harry Reid or anybody associated with the Obama administration would go in, tactically, and try to take away Carhartt and Stetson's land. It's just, the only way they could have made it work, they literally tried to invade Roy Rogers' ranch. Could you possibly have come up with a more abysmal it's a no-win political situation, okay? There's no reason that should have happened unless somebody, presumably a Chinese bank, a Chinese central bank, whatever the case may be, that I don't have the information on. I did not search that deep, but there is a 0% chance that was done for the reasons that we were told. Okay, and the media blackout that was surrounding that should tell you that you were actually witnessing something really happening. Okay, that's what's been used, and I know there's a map that you can. There's just jump on Google Images and take a look at the map that's out there. Okay, of federal land that's owned. All right, that's not United States territory anymore. You may as well stick a Chinese flag in that, because I will tell you right now, as the United States starts to default under debt to China, amongst other nations, that the most industrially advantageous land that is out there has been promised as collateral. All right. It's been promised as collateral to back up the debt securities. The Chinese, okay, must be snuggling with their copy of Sun Tzu's Art of War, because they took the place without firing a shot. They never unsheathed their sword, the mark of the greatest warrior. Surprise. There's no reason. There's no political advantage to going in there, apart from the fact that they had to. And, the administration, no honor among thieves, so to speak, absolutely tossed Harry Reid into a tree chipper. There was no question about it. They made him look like the bad guy. And you do realize that he had no choice in that matter. That's the Chinese. And you, I think, mentioned it on some of your other shows. There's little China cities popping up all over the place. Upstate New York, being a New Yorker by birth and no longer by residence, you go up to 87, all of a sudden, all those little, those industrial towns, holy crap, look, factories, isn't that all, wonderful and special? They're not American-owned. U.S. manufacturing numbers are up. Well, that's a completely fictitious metric to begin with, but they're also counting Chinese-owned production within the borders of the United States. So that's where you're getting those kind of half-inflated numbers as opposed to the ones that just straight make up, and I saw that and I went, oh, man. I said, there it is. I said, that's it. I said, now we know what's been back in United States debt securities, and that's land, okay? United States federal land. That is going to come out soon. There's only going to be more and more incidents like that Bundy Ranch routine. And I thought I was witnessing a Lexington and Concord moment. There was, some of the metrics, some of the specials were just so far off the chart. I went, and the individual that has just become almost immune to my walking around and muttering about geopolitical events, even she kind of agreed and went, yeah, it's possible. I said that was the opportunity for a Lexington and Concord moment, and that's just to give you an idea. You asked me at the beginning of the show, what's the kind of stuff that can literally spin the United States into a dimension of chaos that people cannot possibly imagine? Well, there's one of, I don't know, about a gazillion possible options right there. So that was one that popped up that I searched. I went, I have to. I almost didn't want to. I was like, I want to be wrong on this one. And I saw the data come back, and I did the data analysis and everything, and I looked at it and went, oh my God. I said, that's legit. That's real. So that's something, like I said, do you think that Bundy incident, that Bundy Ranch incident, you thought that was an isolated event? It's not. You're going to see more and more of that, because right now, all right, epic fail on the part of the United States government for that particular instance, but now they have to sit there and have to figure out, what the hell do we do? What do we do? We promised this land, and a lot of it you won't realize is being given away, or whatever the case may be. You'll just see another factory being built there or whatever, or a solar plant. You go, oh, look, yes, ingenuity in America. No. You're going to see that, but where there's land disputes, you're going to see more and more of those instances pop up. And if I was a betting man, I would say that's, you're starting to infringe on an area where, there's somebody out there that's just waiting for an opportunity. That person's out there, somebody that's going to perhaps do something that inspires that revolution, and it's real. It sounds very sensationalistic. It sounds very much, and again, I hear the phrase fear mongering. What the hell does that mean at this point? Fear mongering. It's reality mongering. If anything else, and it's at this point, like I said, you're going to see more and more of those instances, because surprise, surprise, everybody, that's what a lot of the United States debt securities were backed by mathematically. I would say close to 65 to 70% of the federal land in the United States, not counting Alaska and Hawaii, 65 to 70% of the federal land, do the, reverse math real quick, and you can almost come up with a value of, or square mile or acre per dollar. It's real. It's there. So, to that end, that was the one thing that popped up on my radar that struck me as like, you got to be kidding me, and, I think a lot of people were smart enough in this country to figure out what they were seeing, and that, like I said, they were shutting cell phone towers down out there and everything, and it's just that's real. That's how you know you're not witnessing part of the stagecraft. The talking heads were not there, and the ones that were there didn't know what the hell was going on. So, that's like I said. You're witnessing real chaos when the news folks and the talking heads, they break character and they actually start to look like human beings for a second. So. On that, and to that end, I will say, that's a situation in the United States I think people need to really focus on and really think about. So, I hand it back over to you. That's my bit on that. And like I said, it's one of those times where I see the data come out and I do the spatial analysis and I do the wave pattern analysis, and it's just like, oh my God, wow, that's a poo storm waiting to happen.
Absolutely, man. You said it best. I love it. You got two New York boys with hard-hitting style on the radio, folks. You don't get no better. But, one of the things people don't realize here, Mike, is it's not just the land. It's the individual that's been pledged as collateral. And people are like, whoa, V, wait a second. What are you talking about? It's the individual. Folks, this gets into the whole entire, your birth certificate. It gets into your Social Security card, and it gets into the fact that they are pledging you as collateral because you are a human resource for the debt. So what does that look like? Mike kind of detailed. I mean, over here in New York, I'm still in this unfortunate rotten apple over here, but an hour north, going up 87, you got Sullivan County, and you have China City being built there, and you have China buying idle manufacturing in Cleveland and Camden, New Jersey, Newark and Detroit, and in Pittsburgh. They're buying up idle manufacture. They're retooling some of these factories. And it is being counted as manufacturing is up. It's being counted as positive economic data, but it's not U.S. based. And so what's happening is they're retooling this because they know that when they begin to call in the debt, when this thing goes pop, not only will they get the land, but your sons and daughters will be making iPhone 7s and 8s at Foxconn, not in Beijing or Shanghai, but in a Foxconn factory right here in Camden, New Jersey. Or they'll be making some textiles in Detroit or in Cleveland, or making Nike sneakers in Ohio. This is the kind of stuff that people are not thinking about because we've had it so good. You talked about the petrodollar system. You talked about, here we are, you're pricing oil in dollars. And because, folks, we work on a system called importer of last resort. And what that simply means is this. These countries not only buy oil that's priced in dollars, but they are encouraged to take those extra dollars that they have and reinvest it into our markets. That's going away. That's the danger zone here. You're tonight, folks, you're getting hit over the head with sledgehammers when it comes to data that Mike is bringing out. And he's highlighting what we've been telling you for so long, and he's giving you some pinpoint questions. Now Mike, we touched on this earlier. Why don't you tell the audience why gold and silver, and I don't care if you guys sit there, oh, he's a gold. Look, me and Mike, we don't sell gold. We don't have any gold or silver to sell you. We don't. I'm a guy who's just like Mike. We're in Wall Street. Okay, we left the whole financial industry. I'm 90% in metals. I'm a believer in metals. Mike, why don't you go ahead and describe why that is the most important action a person can do?
I mean, at this point, first of all, you look at it. I call gold and silver and precious metals. I mean, that's an investment. Anything that you hold that's paper at this point is not an investment. Now, I'm not saying this market that we have can't be traded. Oh, it can be. You just have to look at it like you're looting almost. You have to look at it the same way that the folks that are in power are looking at it. And right now, the market, the economy as a whole, global economy, you have to look at it like a burning mall. Okay? Get in, get what you can get, and get out. To me, holding any kind of paper overnight is an act of friggin' insanity, because you can literally wake up any morning and that security that's in your Scott trade account could be worth diddly poo, in the immortal words of Jim Mora. It stunk, it sucked, it wouldn't work diddly poo. That's reality, So precious metals to me at this point represent a real opportunity for investment. And it's one of the few exploits in the system that can be taken advantage of by the average retail investor. And that is to say that the price of gold, the price of silver has to be artificially repressed. I mean, you look at gold now, it's cruising around what, $1,200 an ounce, and silver is at some ridiculous number like $20 for an ounce of silver. The thing is, you can't, or the powers that be can't allow gold and silver to trade at their real numbers. And the reason that is because then the jig is up. Everybody knows that the currency systems, the fiat currencies, are A, approaching worthless status, okay, and B, how little faith people have in paper money. So they have to retain an artificially repressed high. And people might say, well, what the hell does an artificially repressed high mean? That is to say that, yes, gold has increased in value, from 01 to current. That's fine. But it's still an outrageously artificially repressed number. And the reason that is because they can't allow those metals to trade at fair value. So as a result, the average investor or the average man on the street can exploit that. And you say, well, how? Simple. Buy it. Buy it. It's like walking into a Ferrari dealership, and I think V has mentioned this before. Okay? People say, well, what if it goes down a little in value? What if it goes down a little in value? Who cares? Who gives a crap? Fair value, I've done a lot of modeling on this. I've done some for Dale. I've done it for other people. I ran a search for V specifically. Okay, fair value of gold, folks. You call me what you want. At this point, I am so far beyond giving a crap what people think of what I have to say, or maybe this guy's out of his mind. I don't care. What I will tell you is that fair value of gold right now is somewhere north of 10 grand an ounce. 10.5 is the number that keeps popping up. 10.5, 10.4, 10.3, 10.250 was a real popular number that popped up. And silver should be somewhere up around, let's say, 8.50 to 9.50, and in some cases on some special data sets that I've gotten back, over $1,000 an ounce. So the point of the story is if you want to invest in something, and, I talk to very few people about this stuff at this point, but, the reality is, well, what if it goes down $1? What if it goes up $1? Who cares? It's like walking into a Ferrari dealership. If an Enzo Ferrari is $4,500 and you come in the store, you come in the dealership the next day and it's $5,000, does that still change the fact that you're buying a $480,000 sports car for $5,000? No, who cares? Keep buying it. Load it up. Back the truck up anymore, in the words of Kramer. Back the truck up. Handle it. Do it. And at that point, because you have to understand, hard assets. I say follow the lead of the BRICS nations. Hard assets. It's gold. It's silver. It's things. It's things that have a tangible value. And throughout history, I think we have to go by history, and that is to say that, in times of economic chaos, and of course, you have your tulip bulbs in Amsterdam, and you pick, the Zimbabwe dollar, the Weimar Republic, pick whatever grade school economics example you want to use. That's fine, but it always goes back to the precious metals. There's a finite amount of them. They have intrinsic and they have true value. Okay, so what you're seeing now is an artificially repressed high, and I will tell people this, that even by Christmas time of this year, look for $1,400 an ounce gold, look for $1,450, look for $1,475, and that's going to start the slow march north, because you have to remember, and V has done a fantastic job of illustrating this. The exit doors are set up already. All right, to get out of the paper. The exit doors for people that know and people that understand, they're ready. They're there. Right now, they're hoping people don't notice. Hey, wait a minute. If you rub your two brain cells together and you go, wait a minute. If we're printing, and I mean, again, grade school economics, we're printing money right now at a rate, I fully expect, Roy Scheider, or a Roy Scheider lookalike, to be standing next to the printing presses at the U.S. Mint at the Fed, okay, pouring water on the quint reel that is the printing press to cool the thing down. All right, we're printing money at a freak show rate. Where's the hyperinflation? Where is it? Nowhere to be found. No hyperinflation. Well, that's kind of bizarre, because when I went to school, I have a 3-year degree, by the way. That's an associate's degree. When you screw off for a year, it takes you 3 years to get a 2-year. But even I know, I'm sitting here scratching my head going, where's the hyperinflation? And the answer is, and I think you may have illustrated this in another show, the answer is it's offshore. Okay, the number one export of the United States has been paper. It's been dollars. I've seen it firsthand. The number one export is dollars. So when that dollar suddenly becomes worthless and you start to see those dollars flood back on shore, I will not even begin to attempt to describe the crap show that is going to result from that. When those dollars become unwanted and those dollars become valueless and they start to come flooding back on shore, you're going to wish you lived in the Weimar Republic. It is going to be horrible on a grand scale. And that's where, like I said, I mean, you would think that somebody would just scratch their head and go, technically, shouldn't a loaf of bread be about like $2,500 right about now, with the amount of printing that's going on? And the answer is no, because those dollars are going offshore. Those dollars are going offshore. Okay. And like I said, you got no precious metals to back it up at this point in the United States. Most of the gold in the United States, statistically speaking, is citizen owned. Okay. It's privately held. the vault under J.P. Morgan, you could have a game of handball in there at this point. No gold. You don't have to worry about anything getting in the way. So the point of the story is, where's the hyperinflation? Where's that hyperinflation mega chaos that everybody talks about? I heard the word stagflation. I don't even know what that means at this point. Stagflation is one they just made up. And where is it? Where is that hyperinflation? And the fact is, much like a nuclear explosion, the outward blast isn't as destructive as the inward blast, the inward flood. And that's what the United States is waiting on right now, is the inward blast of United States dollars to come flooding back on shore, ostensibly worthless United States dollars coming flooding back on shore. The economic destructive force associated with that, we've never seen it in the States before. It's happened in banana republics and third world nations. We've never seen it before in the United States. 2987, it hasn't happened. Okay? And I will tell you this, folks, it's by design. It is 100% by design. There is no way. I mean, there's only two options. You have to assume that the folks at the Fed and the folks that are responsible for this, they're idiots or liars. And I'll give you a hint. They're not idiots. Okay? They're liars. And quite simply, it's an effort to move towards a single world currency. And I mean, the writing is on the wall at this point. I mean, you look at, like I said, you got currencies moving closer to parity. You got a United States dollar that's a grenade with the pin out. You got a rubber band holding the spoon in at this point, and that rubber band ain't that strong. All right, when it pops, let me tell you something. When those dollars come flooding back on shore, once again, go back to something I said about an hour ago: speed of information, the speed of panic, the speed of chaos. What is the speed of chaos these days? The speed of chaos is fast. Okay? There was no Twitter. There was no sharing of thoughts. There was no sharing of information the way we have it now. So ostensibly, time has sped up. Okay? You're talking about a bank run. How'd you like to see, people nowadays that are used to going online on their smartphones, and they go online and then they get a nice big fat HTTP 404 error because the server that their online banking was associated with is hot enough to make Jiffy pop. No page load. That kind of panic that spreads with the Twitter and the Facebook. And, if you ever get bored, I do on occasion, not so much anymore since I've really perfected this program, because it's like a never-ending chaos marathon, and I love every second of it. As horrible as that might sound, but it's a look into reality, and it's fantastic. But what I will say is that, if you get bored and you wake up and you do what I do and you pace around, you chain smoke a little bit, take any moment in American history. Take any moment in American history and imagine what it would have been like with the speed of information that we have today. And like I said, for all intents and purposes, algo trading and social media and so on and so forth, and technology, time, the perception of time has sped up. Okay? So to that end, think about what a bank run might look like, these days. Think about what a retail bank run might look like, and people say, well, that'll never happen. And I've been surrounded by plenty of people in my life that'll go, well, that'll never happen. Well, that'll never happen. That's impossible. The government will take care of that. That'll never happen. No. Government was designed to, you're seeing the demolition charges being placed now, is the way I look at it, okay? The scuttling charges are in place. And the reality of the situation is that it's by design, and it's going to be one of the more interesting examples of, well, what I call diet chaos. Diet chaos. That's not real chaos. That's the planned kind, which is really an oxymoron. It's perception. It's the perception of chaos. That's what's wanted, is the perception of chaos. By the way, this is something else I'll bring up that's been on the radar. And again, I tip my hand a little bit. Like I said, a lot of the data that I get back is spatial in nature, or spatial diagrams and so on and so forth. You Second Amendment guys that are out there that are like, rah-rah guns, I'm a big believer in the Second Amendment, okay? But what I will tell you is that every time you have an incident like a Sandy Hook or something like that, right? Well, first of all, it's always an AR-15. Isn't that bizarre? I'll save that, the hardware debate for another day. But, you look at what's going on, and nobody's going out and confiscating guns. Relax. Nobody's going to come to your door and confiscate the guns. Why? Population control. It's a lot easier just to make sure there are more guns in the system. And people are going, all those events do when they talk about banning firearms and 30-round mags and, whatever the case may be, they target specific firearms, and and like I said, I grew up shooting. I believe everybody should be able to own a firearm. I believe the Second Amendment is there for a reason. But what's going on now is nobody's going door to door, folks. Okay, they're going to unleash the chaos, all right, and they're going to rely on the population to control itself. That's reality right there. And that is, all it does is encourage people that maybe shouldn't go out and own firearms. Like if you're shaky around power tools, you probably shouldn't have, an AR, an AK, or an SKS or anything like that. But they're encouraging people that typically wouldn't go out of fear, talk about fear mongering. They're encouraging people to go out and that typically wouldn't and go, hold on, I got to get one now before, they're outlawed or whatever the case may be. That's setting up for chaos. It's relying on population control. It's nobody's going door to door. You think they're going to do that? Hell no, it's not going to happen. They're just create the chaos, devalue the dollar, unleash the chaos in the United States, and lo and behold, you got people shooting at each other because guess what? United States Revolution, the American Revolution, 1776, there were two different agendas, loyal to the king and not loyal to the king. Inside the United States, thanks to a wonderful concept called diversity, whatever in the hell that means, okay, you got 4,000 different agendas. You got 4,000 different agendas. You got mind-altering substances. You got Generation Me. You got Generation Kill. It's going to be the greatest show on earth, and that's exactly part of the plan. That. So those are, I know I'm all over the place, and sometimes people just have to deal with my ADD style. But that's kind of what I'm seeing. And like I said, I run these searches every day. I've been devoted to this program, devoted to tweaking it, making it better, making it faster, making it stronger. So the point of the story is we are living a very interesting time in history, shall we say. And it's going to be, like I said, it sounds horrible to say, and I don't want anyone that's listening to believe that, oh my God, this guy's totally un-American or whatever the case may be. But the America that we're going to be telling children about in 5 years, I have a funny suspicion they're going to look anything like we're living now. And I know you talk quite a bit about the expatriation of wealth. It's not a bad idea at this point. It really isn't, V. But if you got any other questions for that you have as far as stuff the program's discovered, I'm all ears at this point, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We got about 5 minutes left. Mike, why don't you just go ahead and give out your website, man?
All right, some of the information, I don't post everything, but it's hang on a second. Let me get my URL. It's a WordPress site. Like I said, I've been running on calling it a shoestring budget. It'd be some cheap shoestrings, man. Like I said, I've been running primarily unfunded. Doing this just out of pure passion. But it's hang on a second.
All right, folks, this is me, the Guerrilla Economist. I just want to thank all of you to listening in. I want to thank my producer, Deacon John, for handling this whole thing and making it run smoothly. I just want to thank all of you, and we'll be back next Sunday, folks. I want to thank our guest, Michael Rosecliff. Good night.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.